Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name, your congenial, convivial, and amiable host. Great to have you in the conversation today. 888-589-8840 is the number to call, talking about abortion in the first hour, religious liberty. I've made the comment frequently that the homosexual agenda represents the greatest threat to religious liberty in our day. This case of the gay baker in Oregon illustrates that, or not the gay baker, but the baker that wouldn't bake a cake for a gay wedding. And by the way, gay marriage is not even legal in Oregon. They have a constitutional amendment that prohibits recognition. So he's being punished for doing something in honor of an illegal act in Oregon. It's an act that would be illegal in Oregon. They got married somewhere else and just wanted to come there and celebrate it, but it's illegal. And he's being punished and possibly could face court time. And if he won't cooperate with a fine or whatever, he may wind up in jail. So when I tell you that the homosexual agenda is the single greatest threat to religious liberty in America today, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it is. Now, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the football games yesterday. Sad day for a 49er fan, such as myself. But an interesting thing as the Seahawks get ready to square off with the Denver Broncos is the number of players on the Seattle Seahawks squad that are strong believers in Jesus Christ. Now, Mars Hill Church there in Seattle has done some interview with some of the Seahawks players. Russell Wilson, their quarterback, is one of them. And I'm going to play just one excerpt from the series of interviews that was done with these football players for the Seattle Seahawks. Let's listen.
Jesus is love. You know, at the end of the day, we're all looking for somebody to comfort us, for somebody to be there for us at all times, for somebody when we're in the worst times of our lives, when we're battling with something, with struggles, whatever it may be. You know, when we're at our highest point too as well, when things are going really well, we want somebody to comfort us and be there for us and say, great, well done, and that's Jesus. Jesus has always been there. He'll never leave you, never forsake you.
Literally, Jesus is the greatest treasure in the universe. And it just makes sense. It's not like you give up your life and then you get something worse. You know, it's like Jesus is, for all of us.
You give the worst and get the best.
That's no question. You know, he gave us everything. We had nothing. He gave us everything. So literally, it's just 1 + 1 = 2. It's just that simple. You know, Jesus is better than anything that we could ever, even better than the Super Bowl.
So that's Russell Wilson, the first guy speaking there. The second guy, Rocky Cito, a coach on the Seattle Seahawks. Jesus is better even than the Super Bowl. Now, let me just toss in clip number 2 while we're here. And the reason I'm playing this for you, ladies and gentlemen, is these people think they're the smartest people in the room. This is Melissa Harris Perry. She's part of the cultural elite. She thinks that she is smarter than you. She's smarter than me. She's the smartest person in the room. She's a part of this elite group that think they ought to be able to make decisions for every one of us, that we're a bunch of uneducated, ignorant, hillbilly rednecks from middle America who don't know our ear from our elbow and cannot be trusted with our own life decisions because we're not smart enough. And they, on the other hand, are bright, they're intellectual, they're smart, so therefore they ought to have the right to tell us what to do and make decisions for us. Now, you and I, we know that the motto for the Marine Corps is Semper Fi. That's short for Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful. Semper, the Latin word for always, and Fi, short for Fidelis, which means faithful. Always faithful. That is the Marine Corps motto. But listen to Melissa Harris Perry. She is so out of touch. Listen to how she butchers the Marine motto.
Because, well, if there is anything that is quintessentially American, it is our military, and their goal can be seen in their very mottos. The Army's "This will defend," or Semper Fi, always faithful.
Semper Fi, always faithful. Now, we were talking about abortion in the first hour, sanctity of life. There's a candidate, Tea Party candidate, running in Nebraska. This is clip 9, Rob, by the name of Ben Sass. He's a Tea Party guy. He's one of the 5 conservative Republicans that are given a real good chance of going somewhere in primaries against sitting or established Republicans. Mississippi's got one guy by the name Thad McDaniel has taken on Thad Cochran, rather Chris McDaniel taken on Thad Cochran, who's been a senator forever. And Chris McDaniel, young, strong, pro-lifer, pro-family, got a good chance of defeating a sitting senator in a primary. This Ben Sass is another one. And listen to, this is part of about a 3-minute video that he posted in connection with a March for Life and Sanctity of Life Sunday. Let's listen.
This president has forced people who respect life to pay for the deaths of innocent children. This is not a government that respects the faith of all of us who believe that even in the womb, we are fearfully and wonderfully made by a loving God. This is why we need more than a vote in the Senate. We need a confident voice, a voice of faith who shares the religious convictions that are being violated. We need a champion for the unborn. We need someone who speaks for the babies. We need a voice that can lead the charge to repeal the birth control mandate, repeal Obamacare's attack on religious liberty, and the entire worldview that goes with it. I'm Ben Sass, and I'm running for Senate. For my children, for Breck, who you saw for a while, and for Melissa and my other children, and for your children, and for their children. Thanks for listening, and let's keep working.
That's Ben Sass, a candidate for the U.S. Senate in the state of Nebraska. Let's grab a call from Mike before we're done with this segment. Mike in Cabot, Arkansas. Mike, welcome to Focal Point. Mike from Cabot, Arkansas. What's on your mind?
I was just going to tell you, you had talked about the baker that had to run in with the gay couple about the cake and stuff.
Yes,
And you'd made a comment that he was a nice man. He was considerate to him, and I had heard that, and I was going to voice an opinion that in most cases, no matter how nice you are, pleasant you are, they're still going to react almost in a violent way. My brother is gay, and I love him with all my heart, but I've had a lot of questions that I would like to ask, the gay, about the gay agenda. So I thought, my brother being gay knows I love him. We can sit down and we can discuss it logically. And my question was, why did they force, the gay marriage in the first place? And then, of course, he went with the whole, we don't have the same rights that, heterosexual marriage couples have. And he went through, it was all about the rights and all about this and that. So I said, well, I hear what you're saying. I said, but there are some states that will offer what's called a civil union where you can be a couple and get all the rights and this and that and this and that. And I said, but this gay agenda still, violently attacked that. And then he literally started screaming at me, why shouldn't it be called a marriage? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it was like, and he and I both grew up in church. And I even told him, I said, now, Robbie, I said, you know how I feel? I said, whatever you want to do, as long as, it's not in my face, I hope you're happy and stuff. I said, but where marriage was established, and there's no possible way for a homosexual man and a homosexual man to get together in whatever union you want to call it and produce offspring. Same way with a lesbian woman and a lesbian woman. And I said, and when I first asked you about it, you said it was all about the rights you were being denied. And then I said, but when I mentioned, the states that offer the civil union where you will get the rights, you violently attacked me saying, why shouldn't it be called marriage and this and that? So my main point is, even if you go to them in love and you just want to understand, they're still going to react.
Yeah.
If they don't get exactly what they want when they want it, there really is no questioning. And I love my brother, but I no longer take my family around him.
Yeah, I understand, Mike. Listen, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm out of time into this break. But, you're right. They claim that the homosexual activists say that they're the voices of tolerance, but they are very intolerant at the end of the day.